Hi, this is Christy with Guidepost to Wellness. Welcome back for return viewers and welcome to anybody that's new to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about one of the 4 foundations to overall wellness. Now, we talk a lot about things that can improve overall wellness in the areas of sleep, rest, relaxation, the foods that we eat, and then movement and exercise. So today I wanted to focus on sleep. I've talked a little bit about sleep before, but what I want to do here is kind of lay the foundation talking about the effects of sleep deprivation and then move into a series of videos talking about ways to improve it, sleep habits, and some things like that. So this will kind of be the introductory video, if you will. So many of you are probably just kind of laughing and shaking your head because you know you're sleep deprived. I think that it is almost a badge of honor. We actually, when I was researching this, I found a funny quote that was talking about the fact that we are the only animal, and yes, we are animals, but we are the only animal that will deliberately deprive itself of sleep. And that's really interesting if you think about it. And one of the things about sleep that's so important and why I consider it one of the cornerstones of a wellness foundation is you could eat just a beautiful, healthful diet. You can do mindfulness activities and you can exercise and be very fit physically, but if you are not getting proper sleep, you are not going to be well, and it's going to affect you on the inside, and eventually the whole foundation is going to crumble. And one of the things too that I just want to mention briefly about doing mindfulness exercises and especially meditation. If you find yourself attempting to meditate and falling asleep, that's a sign right there that you're not sleeping enough, because we don't want to actually sleep when we meditate. We want to get into a restful state, but we do not want to go down into the delta waves. So just a little side note there. So one of the things about sleep deprivation, a Dr. Brian Prendergast, I found, who's a psychologist out of the Ohio State University, and I thought this was a really pivotal type of point. He states that it was the invention of the light bulb that led to our sleep deprivation, which is becoming one of the 21st century most significant health concerns. So he likened the electric light to an unregulated drug because of the impacts that it has on our health. That's a pretty serious statement to say. But when you really think about sleep and how we just poo-poo it and we just don't want to do it, well, not me, I love to sleep, but there have been times in my life when I haven't been able to sleep. And by understanding the pivotal impacts it can have on our health, I'm hoping that this will help viewers to recognize that they do have a problem with not getting enough sleep and choose to make some different choices because of the overall impacts on their health. So one of the things about us as a human being and with electric light is that we tend to focus on social calendars instead of biological calendars and even seasonal rhythms. Because interestingly enough, as the seasons change, and I'll link to an article below about time change, we are actually biologically designed and driven to sleep more during low light times like the winter and sleep less during the summer. So we totally disregard those, especially when you look at social type activities or familial type activities and how we just kind of push beyond those. And that's really important to realize. And Rand Corporation out of Europe did a study on the United States a couple years ago. It was a very large-scale study, and they determined that sleep deprivation cost the United States businesses over $400 million in lost productivity and 1.2 million workdays. And that's around worker mortality. I work in the transportation business, and driving while fatigued is a big issue, and we'll touch on that a little bit more as well. Reduced productivity and health costs. And I can definitely see this where I work full-time in a transportation company. some of the associates work other jobs. At one point, a lady was working 3 jobs to help take care of her elderly mother, and help pay for Alzheimer's care for her. And the 2 ladies that I worked with both worked jobs at the same time, were getting very, very little sleep. The one lady, honestly, I don't think she slept maybe 3 hours a night. And it had an impact on their health, which caused them to get sick more and miss more days from that perspective. And then also from the lost productivity piece, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. And so I could see that just right around me, and I think a lot of us could. So one of the terms that I got from a podcast I was listening to, Chris Kresser, he's a great functional medicine doctor that I rely on for a lot of good information. And he was talking about sleep bulimia. And that really is true, because we think that we can deprive ourselves of sleep at night and either nap during the day or nap on the weekends or catch up on it. I remember doing that at school. I went to a military school, and if you did everything by the calendar, that was our running joke. If you did everything by the calendar and the hours in the day that they said to allot to it, it was 26 hours. So you were always sleep deprived. And after lunch, there was a time period between lunch and classes, and out of probably, I think there were 4,400 cadets there. At any given hour after lunch, you would probably have about 4,000 of them sleeping. I mean, we used to be the masters of the power nap. But it doesn't actually help when we do that. If we don't get enough sleep to regenerate from the previous day, then we go into the next day with that inflammation and with those systemic issues. The only real way to nullify the negative effects is to get yourself onto a regular, consistent, deep, restful sleep cycle. So I thought that sleep bulimia was a really good term for what I see people doing. So let's talk about the effects. And you're probably already nodding your head. You probably already know what they are. But I just wanted to make sure that we understand that sleep deprivation is a serious physical effects on our body. I think we know that concentration and memory are definitely affected. So you're trying to learn something, you're trying to retain information for kids, teenagers, college students, then you're going to see that if you're sleep deprived, you're not making those neural connections at night. That's what happens when you sleep to help you retain the memories. It can also really affect anxiety levels, depression. I know that especially when my mother was sick and I was going through periods where I wasn't feeling well and I wasn't sleeping well, my ability to cope the next day with the emotional roller coasters was affected by how well I slept. Just having that even keel is really affected by the amount of sleep. Now, the one thing I wanted to talk about that I alluded to with the fatigue and the accidents and things is something called microsleeps. Has anybody out there ever experienced a microsleep? Yeah, they're pretty scary. And if you ever have them behind the wheel, which is very, very dangerous, then you know that is a very scary feeling. And studies estimate that about 6,000 car crashes, and I work with the trucking industry, so transportation crashes of that nature are even more significant when you have a large vehicle like that. But they estimate about 6,000 car crashes a year are due to fatigue. I know even my father had one. He worked doing medical, like shuttles to places where folks would get dialysis and medical appointments, and I remember he had a minor accident, and it was because he wasn't sleeping well at night and getting up early to do his runs. Thankfully his was very minor, but it is something to realize that when you don't have sleep, it's going to affect your brain, and you can do as much caffeine and things like that as you want, and it's not always going to nullify that effect. So the other thing about the physical effects, and when I was talking about overall wellness, you might look healthy on the outside, but you're going to have systemic inflammation on the inside. It increases your heart risk. If you are chronically fatigued, it can increase your risk of heart disease by 48%. That's significant. it increases blood pressure and inflammation levels. And I know I can personally attest to that, even just how I feel with the tension, my fibromyalgia that I have, trigger points, exercise resilience, any of that, I can feel more inflamed if I'm not sleeping well. I know that one time I went to my bioidentical hormone doctor for my very first visit, and that's when I was suffering from night flashes. Hot flashes and night sweats. Put the two of them together, night flashes. And I hadn't been sleeping well at all. And my blood pressure, which is normally low normal, was elevated, really elevated. And it was due to the lack of sleep. We also see an increase in heart attacks after daylight savings in the fall when we lose sleep, because then there's another additional hour of lost sleep. And if you're averaging less than 5 hours of sleep, which may seem extreme, but I know many people that are, due to their work, small children, a lot of different things, you can actually be decreasing your overall life expectancy by about 15%. To me, that's significant. I want to live as long as I can and as well as I can. Now, another one that can really be an impact for your overall wellness is weight control. Because we are such a balanced act of hormones, that when we don't sleep, we just throw all of the hormones out of kilter that have to do with mood, controlling appetite, cravings, helping our overall digestion, fat burning versus fat storage, all those types of things. So it's really not hard to see the relationship between about 67% of the American population being considered overweight and the fact that we are chronically sleep deprived as a nation. So, I mean, those go hand in hand. And again, that's why it's one of the foundations to overall wellness. And then for this time right now, when we have a looming concern out there for making sure that our immune system is as healthy as possible to prevent an outbreak of a virus in our personal lives, understanding the impact on your immune system if you're not getting sleep is also a major factor. When we're asleep, there are chemicals called cytokines that are released in our body, and these are anti-inflammatory cytokines that help calm down systemic inflammation, and they also fight viruses and bacteria while we're sleeping. We also have a threefold increase of catching a cold if we're sleep deprived. And considering that the cold virus is a similar type virus of what we're seeing right now that is so concerning out there, then there's another reason right there that we need to sleep. We need to sleep well to allow our immune systems to be as strong as possible to naturally fight the viruses. Lack of sleep also decreases natural killer cells, which are another thing that fight viruses. Plus, natural killer cells also kind of help clean up damaged cells that, if they get out of control, can turn into types of cancer. So those are all just some of the really important reasons to understand that if we have the motto of, I'll sleep when I'm dead kind of thing, which I've heard people say, especially younger people, you may be going down a shorter path to getting there if you are sleep deprived, because you are not allowing your body to heal, you are not allowing your immune system to function well, you're putting yourself prone to accidents, all of those factors. So what I'm going to be doing in the next couple of videos in the sleep series is we're going to talk about ways to help improve that. But first thing we have to do is recognize that we have an issue. So this video is about the educational factors of it. So be honest with yourself. Are you sleep deprived? And then start to look at opportunities to make some changes. And in upcoming videos, I'm going to talk about some technology. I will put a link for a technology that can help naturally with sleep. I want to look at non-invasive ways. I'm not a big proponent of prescription medications if we can do something else besides that. So I'm going to talk about some of those ways to help get us into better sleep patterns, things that will help us relax and things like that. So don't fret. Stay tuned for upcoming videos where we're going to talk more, and I will put some links below with some things that will help out. But it's all tied together, and we want to improve our overall wellness foundation. So stay tuned and share this video with other people that are sleep deprived, and so they can ask themselves those tough questions and see if they're impacting their health as well. And stay tuned for upcoming videos.